The cowboy believed he was simply giving a frightened Apache woman a safe place to sleep for one night. She carried no horse, no family, and spoke almost nothing. But hidden beneath her worn blanket was a secret so powerful that people had hunted her for years. By sunrise, armed men were riding toward his ranch, and the cowboy realized that helping one lonely woman would change his life forever. The sun was sinking behind the distant hills, covering the wide prairie in warm shades of gold and orange. Jacob Carter finished feeding the horses and closed the gate to the corral. Life on his small ranch followed the same quiet routine every day. He worked from sunrise until evening, shared his meals with his loyal old sheepdog, and enjoyed the peaceful silence that settled over the land each night. As he carried a bucket toward the barn, he noticed a lone figure walking slowly along the dusty trail leading to his cabin. At first he thought it was a traveler who had lost the road, but as the person came closer, he realized it was a young Apache woman. Her clothes were worn from a long journey, and her face showed signs of exhaustion, yet she stood with calm strength and quiet dignity. She stopped several steps from the porch and spoke in a soft voice. "I am not looking for trouble. I only need a safe place to rest for one night." Earlier that afternoon, several people from the nearby town had warned Jacob that strangers had been seen traveling through the valley. They advised him to lock his doors before dark. Those words echoed in his mind as he looked at the tired woman standing before him. Then he noticed something unusual. She carried almost nothing except a small leather pouch tied carefully beneath her shawl. Even in her exhausted condition, one hand never moved far from it. Jacob looked into her weary eyes and made his decision. "You are welcome here," he said gently. "Come inside. There is warm food waiting, and you will have a safe place to sleep tonight." For the first time since arriving, the woman allowed herself a small, grateful smile, unaware that this simple act of kindness was about to change both of their lives forever. The next morning, Jacob woke before sunrise, expecting to begin another ordinary day on the ranch. As he stepped outside, he stopped in surprise. The horses were already fed, fresh water had been placed in every trough, and the chickens had wandered happily into the yard. The young Apache woman was quietly repairing a section of the wooden fence that had been leaning for weeks. "You did not have to do all this," Jacob said. She smiled softly without looking up. "You gave me food and a safe place to rest. This is my way of saying thank you." Throughout the day, Jacob watched her work with quiet confidence. She moved patiently around the animals, speaking to them in a calm voice. Even his oldest horse, a stubborn gray gelding that trusted almost no one, walked beside her without fear. Later that afternoon, Jacob noticed one of the horses limping after stepping on a sharp stone. Before he could gather supplies, the woman had already found several wild plants growing near the creek. She gently cleaned the horse's hoof and placed the herbs around the sore spot before wrapping it with clean cloth. "My grandmother taught me," she explained. "She believed the land gives us what we need if we care for it with respect." By evening, the horse was already walking more comfortably. As they shared a simple meal beside the fireplace, the silence between them no longer felt awkward. The woman introduced herself as Shahina. She spoke only a little about her past, saying that her family had once lived peacefully among the mountains before difficult times forced them to leave everything behind. "There are very few of us left," she said quietly. "Many stories disappeared because no one remained to tell them." Jacob listened without interrupting. He could hear both sadness and strength in her voice. His eyes drifted toward the small leather pouch resting beside her chair. Once again, she kept it close, almost as if it were part of her. He wondered what could be so valuable that she would protect it through such a long and difficult journey. Just as the evening grew quiet, Jacob heard the distant sound of horses approaching from somewhere beyond the hills. He stepped outside and saw several riders moving slowly across the prairie, stopping at ranches along the trail as if they were searching for someone. A strange feeling settled over him. For the first time, he realized that Shahina's journey might not be over. The following morning passed quietly, but Jacob could not stop thinking about the riders he had seen the night before. They had not come to his ranch, yet the feeling that someone was searching for Shahina stayed with him. As the sun began to set, Shahina stood outside the cabin, looking toward the distant mountains. After a long silence, she turned to Jacob. "You have shown me kindness without asking for anything in return," she said softly. "You deserve to know why I have traveled so far." She carefully untied the small leather pouch she had guarded since the day she arrived. Instead of gold or precious stones, she removed several folded pieces of aged paper wrapped inside soft cloth. Alongside them rested a small hand-carved wooden symbol that had been polished smooth by many hands over the years. Jacob looked at the items with quiet curiosity. Shahina gently unfolded the papers. They contained hand-drawn maps, family names, and stories written by her elders. Each page told of places where families had lived, gathered, and celebrated together. Some pages described peaceful friendships with neighboring communities and the traditions that had been passed from one generation to the next. "My grandfather trusted me with these," Shahina explained. "He said that if these memories were lost, a part of our people would disappear forever." Jacob slowly nodded. He finally understood why she had protected the pouch through every mile of her journey. It was not carrying riches. It was carrying the history of her family and the voices of those who came before her. He looked at Shahina with a new sense of respect. "These belong to the future as much as the past," he said. Shahina smiled for the first time without sadness. Just then, the peaceful evening was broken by the distant sound of approaching horses. This time, the riders were coming directly toward Jacob's ranch, and there was no doubt they were looking for someone. As the riders came closer, Jacob stepped onto the porch while Shahina remained calmly beside the doorway. A cloud of dust settled as 6 travelers stopped outside the ranch. Their faces showed signs of a long journey, but there was no anger in their expressions. Instead, they looked tired and hopeful. An older man slowly climbed down from his horse and removed his hat as a sign of respect. "We are looking for a woman named Shahina," he said. "We were told she might have passed through this valley." Jacob glanced at Shahina, allowing her to decide whether she wished to answer. After a quiet moment, she stepped forward. "I am Shahina," she replied. The older man's face softened with relief. "For many months, we have searched for you," he said. "Your grandfather once told us that you carried something precious. Not because it was valuable, but because it held the stories of families who never wanted their memories to disappear." Shahina looked at the leather pouch in her hands before meeting the man's eyes. "My grandfather asked me to protect these stories until I found people who would honor them with honesty and care," she said. The visitors nodded with understanding. They gathered around the porch as Shahina carefully opened the pouch. Together, they read the names, studied the hand-drawn maps, and shared memories that had been passed down through their own families. Piece by piece, forgotten connections began to return. Jacob quietly watched as smiles replaced uncertainty. He realized he was witnessing something far greater than the sharing of old papers. He was watching people reconnect with their history and with one another. As the evening drew to a close, the older man turned to Jacob with sincere gratitude. "You offered kindness to a stranger," he said. "Because of your choice, these stories will continue to live for generations." Jacob smiled modestly, never imagining that opening his door to one tired traveler would leave such a lasting mark on so many lives. The next morning, the ranch felt different. The rising sun warmed the fields as Shahina prepared for the next part of her journey. Before leaving, she walked to the porch where Jacob was waiting. She reached into the leather pouch one final time and removed a small hand-carved wooden token. It was simple, yet beautifully made. "My grandfather believed that kindness should always be remembered," she said as she placed it in Jacob's hand. "Keep this, so you will always remember that one good choice can touch many lives." Jacob accepted the gift with gratitude. "I will treasure it," he replied. As Shahina and the travelers rode away across the open prairie, Jacob stood quietly until they disappeared beyond the distant hills. Although the ranch became peaceful once again, he knew it would never feel quite the same. In the months that followed, travelers often stopped at Jacob's ranch. Some came to hear the remarkable story of the woman who had protected her family's memories. Others simply came seeking a warm meal, a place to rest, or a friendly conversation. Jacob welcomed every visitor with the same kindness he had shown Shahina that first evening. The small wooden token remained above the fireplace, reminding him that the greatest treasures are not measured by wealth. They are found in compassion, trust, and the courage to help someone when they need it most. Whenever people asked why his door was always open, Jacob smiled and gave the same simple answer. You never know how one act of kindness can change a life. Sometimes, it changes your own the most. And that lesson became the true legacy of the little ranch on the prairie. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this story. Sometimes the greatest treasures are not hidden in gold or precious possessions. They are found in kindness, trust, and the courage to open your heart to someone who needs help. One simple act of compassion can create a legacy that lives on for generations. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more original Western frontier stories filled with unforgettable characters, emotional journeys, and meaningful life lessons. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new adventure. We would also love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced an act of kindness from a stranger that stayed with you for years? Share your story in the comments. We read every comment, and your experiences inspire future stories. Finally, if you think someone else would enjoy this journey, share this video with your friends and family. Your support helps us continue creating heartfelt stories for everyone who loves the spirit of the Old West. Until next time, thank you for watching, take care of yourself, and we will see you in the next story.